Following the understanding of fiduciary duties and the identification of to whom those duties are owed, it is crucial to explore the timing and procedures required when both the buyer's and seller's licensees operate under the same brokerage. In Arizona, this scenario, often called intra-company representation, is common in larger brokerages. While it differs from traditional dual agency, it still requires precise timing and clarity in disclosures to ensure compliance with ARS Section 32-2153A3 and Commissioner's Rule R4-28-1101D-F. The timing and content of disclosures directly protect all parties and preserve the fiduciary duties owed to each client. When both the buyer and seller are represented by licensees who work under the same employing broker, Arizona law defines the situation as limited representation through designated agents rather than true dual agency. This means that each client, the buyer and the seller, has their own agent within the same brokerage, and each of those agents owes full fiduciary duties exclusively to their respective client. However, because both licensees work under the same broker, the employing broker ultimately holds supervisory responsibility for both sides of the transaction. This creates the potential for perceived conflicts of interest, which must be managed through timely and transparent disclosure. The Arizona Real Estate Agency Disclosure and Election Form, RED, serves as the primary tool for making these disclosures. The timing of these disclosures is critical. They must be made at the earliest practicable opportunity, typically at the first substantive contact with any party to the transaction. According to R4-28-1101D, licensees must disclose in writing whom they represent before any confidential information is exchanged or before any contractual agreements are formed. This ensures that all parties understand the nature of the relationship and the boundaries of confidentiality before proceeding further. To illustrate, consider this example. A listing agent named Michelle, representing a seller, and a buyer's agent named David, representing a buyer. Both work under the same employing broker at Realty One Group. When David's client decides to make an offer on Michelle's listing, both licensees must disclose to their clients that they work under the same brokerage. This disclosure must be made immediately, before the offer is presented or accepted. The READ form is used to confirm that each party understands the structure of representation, that both agents owe fiduciary duties to their own client, and that their broker supervises both sides. This disclosure protects both the clients and the brokerage. It informs the buyer and seller that, although their agents represent them individually, the broker may have access to transaction-related information as part of supervisory oversight. Importantly, it clarifies that confidentiality remains intact, meaning that one agent cannot share confidential client information with another agent in the same brokerage without the client's written consent. This is reaffirmed in R4-28-1101E, which mandates that brokers and licensees maintain confidentiality at all times, except where disclosure is required by law. Timing errors in disclosure can lead to serious consequences. If an agent fails to disclose the shared brokerage relationship before confidential information is exchanged, the ADRE may determine that the agent engaged in unlawful dual representation without consent, violating ARS Section 32-2153A2. This can result in disciplinary action, including fines, license suspension, or revocation. The ADRE has emphasized that even unintentional delays in disclosure may be considered a violation if they create confusion or potential harm to a client's interests. Therefore, disclosure should not be postponed until negotiations intensify or an offer is signed. It must occur as soon as substantive communication begins. Beyond initial disclosure, timing also matters when changes in representation occur. For instance, if a buyer originally represented by one agent switches to another agent within the same brokerage who also represents the seller, this change must be disclosed in writing to all parties immediately. The new arrangement must include updated written consent from both the buyer and the seller acknowledging the revised representation structure. This ensures that the clients are never left uncertain about who represents them and how their confidential information will be protected. In Arizona, the employing broker carries ultimate responsibility for ensuring that all required disclosures are made promptly and accurately. Under R4-28-1103A, the designated broker must exercise reasonable supervision and control over all advertising, contracts, and agency relationships. This includes verifying that licensees use the red form appropriately and submit it to the brokerage for file review. Brokers should also implement internal policies requiring agents to obtain signed agency disclosure forms early in the relationship, before showing properties, writing offers, or sharing confidential details. The ethical foundation behind these timing requirements is transparency. When both licensees work under the same broker, the potential for misunderstanding is higher, especially if clients perceive that information could be shared across the brokerage. By disclosing early and documenting consent in writing, agents prevent confusion and preserve public trust. Furthermore, early disclosure protects the agent legally if disputes arise later about representation or confidentiality. Review summary. When buyer and seller licensees operate under the same employing broker, disclosure of fiduciary duties and representation must occur at the earliest practicable opportunity. Typically, at the first substantive contact, each licensee owes fiduciary duties solely to their own client, but the employing broker oversees both transactions. Written disclosure using the READE form ensures that both parties understand this arrangement. Confidentiality remains mandatory, and timing is critical. Failure to disclose before confidential information is shared violates ARS Section 32-2153A2 and Standard of Practice 1-9. Brokers are responsible for enforcing these timing requirements through active supervision. Discussion. Why must disclosure occur before confidential information is shared? Answer. Because clients must understand who represents whom and how their information will be protected before trusting the agent with sensitive details. Who holds ultimate responsibility for ensuring disclosures are made on time? Answer. The employing broker, under R4-28-1103A, must supervise agents and ensure agency disclosures are completed and documented. What is the purpose of the READ form in this situation? Answer. It clarifies the agency relationships within the same brokerage and documents client consent to representation under the same broker. Closing remarks. The timing of disclosure in intra-company representation is one of the most crucial compliance responsibilities in Arizona real estate. Timely disclosure prevents misunderstandings, protects confidentiality, and upholds the trust that clients place in their agents. When both licensees work under the same broker, early and transparent communication ensures that fiduciary duties remain clear and that all parties are treated with honesty and fairness. By adhering to these principles, agents safeguard their licenses, their clients' interests, and the integrity of the profession as a whole.